Welcome to the Cantina. Grab some Jawa juice, and guess what? I'm back.
Hey, welcome
Hey,
back.
Last.
Thank you. Yeah, I missed you guys. Great podcast last week, by the way. No notes other than who's been to Tanglewood? This guy.
Oh,
this guy.
here we go.
Yeah, I was listening to that and I'm like, I saw Brian Wilson there. It was amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
Incredible.
that's my only notes. Great podcast. It's one of those podcasts I was glad I missed and was able to listen to because I would have added nothing to the conversation, and really enjoyed both of you were both musically inclined. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Musically motivated. We were both stoked on that, I think.
Yeah.
Ben's definitely my musical guru, but I try to do what I can when I speak in that realm.
You all have great insights and perspectives on score music that I don't always think about. So it's always, I just like talking about music, right? Who doesn't love doing that?
Yeah.
That's great. And we thought, talking about the music, we were able to talk about scenes, from the Saga films.
Yeah.
That was a great kind of segue into a larger discussion about really fun moments that we love
For sure.
in Star Wars.
Yeah, we can't forget that there's so many scenes that are just totally elevated by the music.
Yeah.
I mean that's John Williams' superpower, right? Just
It's
I'll
so
take this
true.
regular scene and make it indelible memory that you'll carry for the rest of your life.
Oh, George, and Steven, this is your temp track? This is what you chose?
He's like, that's adorable.
Down that reel.
And there are amazing composers all throughout Hollywood, but John Williams is a one of one. There's it is amazing, and Ben, I'm glad you chose Ray's theme because
I did that for you, buddy.
You mentioned it, and since I listened to it a couple days ago, it's been her theme has been going through my head because that is the one I cannot watch the sequel trilogy without getting Ray's theme, just in my head for days and days and days and days.
Did you like all my obscure picks, Adam?
I loved your obscure. I always love your obscure picks. There's a couple I had to be I actually fired up Spotify.
Nice.
I gotta actually check that. I can't remember what this one is.
Yeah, I hope I elucidated on the ones that I picked.
Yes.
That are kind of obscure, that made
sure.
them helped you understand the scene that they're sort of connected to, and why I sort of underwrote those scenes initially. I was like, these are the scores essentially, and I was like, these are actually fantastic, and they actually are it's a character in the story, right? John Williams' music becomes a character, and
I will make
the
argument.
ones I chose were all in that sort of vein.
It's why no scene is forgettable in Star Wars. I don't think there's a forgettable scene in Star Wars, and I think part of in any of the 9 movies, I think part of that is because of the music. There's always something happening with the music that makes it memorable, even if the scene itself is not the most important scene.
Yeah, that's so funny. Just talking about that, I was just thinking Ray's theme, when I think of Force Awakens, I get the tingles of anticipation of a new series happening, and that always comes back and makes me happy, and that definitely is kicked off when I hear the Ray theme.
Yep, you hear the theme. I can picture her sliding down the dune, and that's to me is just anticipation.
Yeah, but it's weird. But the prequel trilogy, the iconic moment I have is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon sort of on their covert mission through that. That space, the Trade Federation ship.
Yeah.
It's got a great name. What are those things called? Gigantor.
Oh, the droid command ship. The droid
command ship.
Yeah, but they have a title. It's some awesome name. Anyways, through that ship and and I don't know for some reason but there's not a ton of music in there. There's nothing really iconic that happens until you start going to Oto Gunga and stuff. Gets a really memorable scene in there.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Totally.
I digress. We
Anyway,
did a whole pod on it last week.
Documentary, honestly. I still think about that documentary, and I would like to revisit that every year. Before we started, the record.
Oh, yeah.
Talking
It's
about
amazing.
what we do
and
annually, and that's definitely that documentary's going in there.
Yeah.
What's up for this week, guys?
Yeah, so this week we're going to talk about some comics. We're going to talk about the Battle of Jakku in the first part of that series, the Insurgency Rising. But before that, we got some news? Question mark? I mean, the first one's definitely news.
We harvest what we can, all right?
Yeah. Some are news, some's wild speculation.
Yeah.
But in terms of news, the one thing that's definitely confirmed, or a couple things that are definitely confirmed, but the first one is that Visions is coming back for season 3 next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Great. Happier.
Yeah. I just am so excited.
Visions is much like Andor, where I feel like it's unanimously adored. I really do. I think people just if you dig Star Wars and you kind of want to watch a lot of tangential, stories, Visions is a really fun ride, and I think we all have gushed about it, and we love picking our favorites of when we watch it. Not that like any of them are better than the other. It's just like each one just grabs you in different ways, and it's fun. I love those conversations, so I can't wait for season 3. We have great conversations.
That's the thing I think about. I love the show, and I love how we talk about the show afterwards. And that's not like a hump. That's not a self brag, but I love comparing notes with you guys. And this is my favorite. This is your favorite, and like we always have differing opinions about what our favorite was, and it makes me. It's similar to like when we talk about anything. It makes me appreciate all 9 episodes. I was just thinking about. Was the one in season 2 called The Pit? I can't remember if that was the name of it, but you remember the one?
Yeah,
like I remember showing that to like that one blew me away to the point where I'm like, Carly, and I don't usually use like Carly, you have to sit down and watch this, which she really appreciated. But I that's not me. I don't do that to people. Like I don't force my media on others. But I'm like, no, Carly, sit down. We're watching this. Like,
oh, that's cool.
You have to see this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think like part of the popularity of those is that the stakes are so low? They're just like, this doesn't really count. It's
I
not
think they just
canon.
feel like Elseworld sort of stories where it's like anything can happen.
Yeah.
And when anything can happen in a Star Wars, it's really special.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a deeper message there for, future story creators for Star Wars.
I think so. And I love, like, to a person who loves the building of lore, who before joining this podcast and putting her daughter to bed, talked about the lore surrounding Bluey. Like literally that's how I'm getting my child into Star Wars, is talking about the deep lore of Bluey, which actually has deep lore. It's wild, like the connections. I'm like, did you notice that the busker in this thing is also the person, the musician at the wedding? And she's like, I didn't. She's blown away. So that's how I'm like trying to get her really like tied in. So anyway,
well, if you
like,
think
I love
that's
lore.
Cool.
Yeah,
we did that with Bob's Burgers and my son. We're like,
Mr.
Fitzgerald
she's
Kevin
4. We've shown her Bob's Burgers, because Bob's Burgers is one of the best family shows you can watch because it's fine, like
comedic, but there's not anything clean.
Yeah,
and it's
clean. It's clean comedy.
Really fun. Yeah, it's a good show.
Wow. All right.
I've shown it to my 4-year-old and we'll watch it. She likes it, so I'm like, that's great because I can watch this all day. But I was gonna say is that part of me is able to just, and Ben, you've kind of had the same approach, is that these are things that could have happened, but they're through storytellers. So it gets subverted and changed and whatever. So I love that idea of like this idea of what they were trying to do with the Legends books that are behind me. This idea of like, maybe these happened, maybe they're just, folklore, who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Like, I just think like the fact that it's lower stakes means that they can really play. And I like to see artists be artists and play in the Star Wars space. And they don't always hit for me, and I have certain aesthetics that I like more than others. But there's always, 3 or 4 out of the 9 that I'm like, oh yeah. Or at least 2 bangers that I'm like, this is my Star Wars, which is like, I mean, listen, we all have our own tastes, right? But like my favorite type of Star Wars, and I'm getting a phenomenal story in that vibe that I'm looking for exactly. And I love that.
Yeah, there's not many places where you can hear David Harbour voice a Jedi Master. Other than Visions. So like a lot of the voice acting is really cool.
Yeah. Right on, man. So that was the biggest news of this week, I think. The other thing, which I don't know if it was out yet, I'm thinking it's not, because I feel like I would have geeked out over this, but they announced the directors for each of the 8 episodes of Skeleton Crew.
Let's talk about this. This was a great list, and to see David Lowery get 2 episodes, so exciting. One of my favorite sort of directors of these days. Yeah,
they announced some of these before, and I don't think David Lowery was on the list. Maybe but like this
sort
is
of a surprise to see him there. I didn't even know he was involved. Honestly,
weirdest, wildest directors. They have applied for an Amblin like movie. Like I'm already excited about the show because I have no expectations about the show other than like take me for a ride. And now that you put these directors in there, I'm like, yep. Yeah, like, this is going to be amazing.
This is not who I think. I mean, so we know like John Watts was like the first name attached to this, right? So he's doing the first episode and the last episode. Grant mentioned
he's like a technical sort of showrunner in the Disney Plus space, which operates a little differently.
And he does this. He did the 3 Spider, or he does the
he
Spider-Man.
pitched the show, right? He was like, what would it be like for kids?
Did he write the show? Do we know who wrote?
Well, he was. I I'm sure he wrote the show.
I think he wrote.
Sure
I think he
definitely wrote the
co-wrote
show.
or
Yeah, definitely.
But he
pitched it initially.
did this-
The idea was, what if kids had the imagination of audiences who saw Star Wars in 1977, sort of like were awakened to Star Wars and what it is, and what if kids got to go through that experience in the galaxy far, far away?
Yeah, which you know how you get kids involved with Star Wars? Give them kids to follow through Star Wars. Like it's kind of like it's insidious in its brilliance.
I really like this. Yeah, this will be fun.
But John Watts he did the last two Spider-Man movies,
all three,
right?
I believe.
All three,
yes.
Yeah. And those movies, for what you say, they're really good at being a teenager. Those movies are really good at of like focusing in on what it's like to be a teenager. That's the thing I love about it. Is like I love about the movies.
Capture
the teenage angst and
it feels almost John Hughesian, but almost a little bit more modern with internet sort of commentary and sort of social media commentary and just fast-paced living commentary, which kids are sort of inundated with, which is there's so much thrown at them, and I feel like he just really knows how to write from a younger person's point of view, and I think he does it better than most, honestly. And so I think we're in good hands for this sort of Goonies story, because we're gonna get it, from John Watts, and who better, right?
Right.
And then the writer was the directors too. I'm like, all these directors definitely will do well in this space. They all write sort of 4-quadrant stuff and family adventures.
These directors are wild. They got heavy hitters for this thing.
David Lowery's the one that stands out to me as being maybe a little bit more auteur.
Yeah. I mean,
so
he did The Green Knight, and I know I geek out about this to all my friends, but I don't know if I've done it on this pod yet. But The Green Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, it was the one that just hit me at the exact right mood where I wanted to.
I'll argue it's a Christmas movie right now, but it's all right.
Okay. All right. Now you're selling me on watching it this Christmas.
I'll argue it's a 420 movie all day. It's just
that too. Yeah, that too.
But if you want a slow, beautiful experience that's just like gorgeous and takes its time and like amazing score, amazing visuals the whole time, like, and it's just like a real Arthurian tale is weird. Like, I forgot. Like, I grew up on these things. My dad read them to me, but I didn't really understand how weird they were. I think.
And the further you go back, right, we go beyond Arthur. You go to his dad. You go to Uther Pendragon. Like, those tales are just out of control.
Wild.
Like, they're just insane.
They're written actually in like the Middle Ages, so it's like they're wild.
Can I talk about David Lowery too? Is like so he's been on a couple podcasts I listen to. If you hear him talk, super down to earth, like a super funny normal guy.
He goes on, I think, Blank Check regularly.
Yeah, Blank. That's what I was going to refer to. Like, he's always a Blank Check, and he seems like super funny and whatever. He also did Pete's Dragon, which I always forget, which is like
that's true.
Not the best, but if you watch that movie, it's very similar to Green Knight. Of like, they gave this guy the ability to remake a movie, and it is as trippy in a lot of ways, and as blankety comforty as the Green Knight. And I feel like Lowery, I always argue, is like, I agree it's a 420 movie, but as someone who doesn't necessarily indulge ways watching the movies, I feel like it makes me feel like I've indulged.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Exactly.
Like it gets me high. Like,
both should be true.
That's very popular. That sort of I feel like is informed from that stuff, but nonetheless, it's sort of under the radar. I'm a Ghost Story fan. I rewatched it recently.
Oh, right. Yep, I forgot a Ghost Story.
And it just like, and to learn about the budget being as low as it was, and to see what that movie is just inspiring. It's truly incredible sort of story, and it just another sort of musical story, another sort of a musician character at the center of it. That's sort of just like hidden under the details of the movie, and I feel like for musicians it must hit incredibly hard, and it's a really beautiful movie, and I just think David is incredibly gifted. But Green Knight is standout, incredible. I saw that in theaters. I loved it. It was so great in theaters. Like, just to hear the Green Knight, itself speak in theaters was great.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that in a theater.
I'm so excited to see what they do. Like, they're all very dreamlike directors, because you also have the
Daniels.
The Daniels, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, that's the one. Like that, the Green Knight, David Lowery and Lee Isaac Chung, right? Because he directed Minari and Twisters, right?
Minari is literally one of my favorite movies of the last 5 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. And the fact that he just did Twisters, which is just like everyone's like, "Why are you doing Twisters?" And I'm like, okay, granted, I have not seen Twisters.
You guys like money?
Here's what I'll say. That's the thing.
I just rolled credits on
it.
Twisters, so I'm happy to speak on it if need be.
Yeah, and I don't even like. I'm not even gonna judge that movie necessarily based on it, but to come back to a franchise that's 30 years old and to make it one of the biggest blockbusters of the year, like clearly he's hit on something. So like again, like coming back to people who are like big creators in Hollywood doing an episode of Star Wars is super exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the Daniels because I'm a big Swiss Army Man.
Yes.
Fan, and
I mean,
I love everything everywhere all at once. I was blown. I saw both those films in theaters. I'm a big fan of their short films. When I was in film school, I would watch their short films all the time.
If
Pockets really stood out. Go check out Pockets. It's incredible.
Yeah. It's so good.
It's really fun sort of camera tricks. So I'm hoping for some camera tricks in that episode with the Daniels.
Right? They're super creative. I mean, if anyone who saw everything everywhere all at once and loved it, go back and watch Swiss Army Man because like that movie is weird and wonderful. And if you want to watch someone riding if you want to watch someone riding Daniel Radcliffe as a farting corpse.
There you go.
That's all I'll
say.
It is. You'll get that. And you know what? It works and it's wonderful in the film.
Right on.
Moving
along.
Is that like a stopper? That's just a whole stopper?
No,
anyways, it was a great pod this week.
Which I'm very excited for because I think Bryce Dallas Howard is secretly like MVP throwing absolute heaters, throwing 100 at this point in Star Wars talk. Yeah. And Ron Howard, Filoni, move over. Favreau, move over. Because Bryce Dallas Howard could be the answer we're all looking for. And I think she's right there. I think she's right there. And we don't realize it. Is that she brings all this compassion and love and care for Star Wars and understands it deeply. And
it also does
and Creston just elevating on a level, on an exponential level that I have not seen before in the sort of Star Wars creative space in premium streaming.
Yeah, I will say, the thing I always say about her is she went from directing my least favorite episode in season 1 of The Mandalorian to my favorite episode of Boba Fett.
Right.
Like she does an episode of that fake one shot, that oneer of Boba of The Mandalorian just going into that club is one of my favorite things done, and that whole episode is really good. And I will say, of the fact that is the I can't remember the name, but the Seven Samurai ripoff from season 1,
right? Sanctuary.
Mandalorian.
Yes, right. Yeah, that sounds right.
I've been watching a lot of Walking Dead lately, so I
Sargon or whatever that planet is called.
Sorgan.
Sorgan.
It is. I've gone back and rewatched it and realized it's nothing that she did. It's more of the structure of the episode leaves me a little lukewarm. And that shot of the AT-AT coming alive in the forest.
Oh, the AT-ST, yeah.
AT-ST, sorry, thank you. AT-ST is
we have yet to
really
see
nice.
Those AT-ATs.
It's really, we haven't. Is really well done in terms of this creature in the forest moment.
Oh,
that I've watched it. I'm like, that's brilliant directing.
It's great.
So,
it's fantastic. I couldn't agree more with what you just said, Adam.
It is called Sanctuary, FYI.
Oh, nice. Yeah, definitely. The sort of the exponential leaps she's making, and then to see her on Skeleton Crew, and what that could mean. Because I do wonder if there's some interconnectivity with the Mandoverse, what's going on.
Yeah.
It is taking place concurrently with those shows. Like it is part of the Mandoverse.
And who's handling the deep lore stuff is Bryce Dallas Howard. I would say.
Yes. Ben, Grant, that's an interesting comment. I never even thought about, I don't want to get us too off track, that we could get a Mando cameo.
Yeah, we haven't been talking about that crossover possibility, but it's definitely there.
It adds a man with no name aspect to Mando too, especially if you see him do his sort of gunslinger stuff, but from a kid's point of view, and he's just obscured by bright lights and shadow. It's like, whoa, what was that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that'd be kind of amazing.
A couple of sick taglines, and then he blasts off and goes away, or whatever. Just sort of in there, and we all know, but the kids are just wide-eyed, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be really great, and I could definitely see some running into the New Republic.
Oh yeah,
you get Carson Teva, and maybe you get a fun Garazeb Aurelius, cameo or something like that, or just like a Trapper Wolf.
Zeb Aurelios?
A Trapper Wolf. I was like, call it Wolf Trapper, but I knew that
what
was
did you
wrong.
call Zeb Aurelios a second ago?
Zeb Aurelius. It's Garazeb Aurelius, I think is his full name.
Garazeb.
Yeah, it's his full. I mean, if you know him like I do,
my
he's
God!
still
You had to
Garazeb.
drop the full. You had to go full Garazeb on me tonight.
Dude, there's something about that name, bro. It's just like if they're gonna put 27 syllables in a name, I'm gonna. I'm gonna use them all.
Yeah. Wow. I'm.
Yeah, Ben and I are very opposite that way because we were talking in the Wheel of Time earlier on, and I'm like, I couldn't say any of the characters' names because I speed read past it, and I'm like, I'll recognize that name, but boy, am I not going to spend time trying to figure out how to say it out loud.
I like words. Sometimes I just like saying words because I'm still
I
a
love
child.
Like etymology. And
but that's a sign of an intelligent reader. I've heard. It's like when you're actually smart, you just see symbols and not words and don't actually read. But
No, I'm brilliant apparently.
Yeah. Everyone says that about you.
No,
it's like a beautiful mind.
I'm actually a very watching my wife. Watching my wife, I thought I was an okay reader, and I watched my wife, and she's like, "I read a book." I'm like, "What? How'd you read a book?" Like, I've read 100 pages. How'd you read 400 pages? So I think she does that.
I stop and look for a highlighter for 30 minutes, then get back to the book. So I'm like, I can't find it. I'm gonna go sit back.
That was me reading this comic today. I was like, I need to go consult my archives.
I know. I have Wikipedia pulled up because we got a lot of names to talk about. Jake Schreier might be the only kind of unknown who's directing Thunderbolts, right?
Yeah.
Which is, in many ways, I mean, I'm not going to put too much on the Thunderbolts, but it's kind of like this demonstrates whether or not Marvel can pull off what it's been trying to do, which is like the majority of these characters have been delivered to you through various Disney Plus and other movies that didn't do that well. So if like it's a lot resting on his shoulders, but it's interesting. Yeah,
it's funny. I'm excited to see where the MCU goes, and it's interesting to see that there's a little crossover in terms of same director. I like what I've seen from the previews in terms of his directing style, so I think it'll blend well with this, but I don't know. We'll see.
Should we do a little tiny video game corner here?
Sure.
The DLC for the first DLC of 2, I believe, for Star Wars Outlaws dropped today. I think it's with Lando Calrissian. And also an interesting tidbit that they've now... It's not just... There used to be levels where you would have to be incognito, do full stealth, and if you were caught, level ends, you start over. That's gone away, and now you can shoot your way out of levels. Or try. Or die trying. Just a weird patch update and that. And,
a lot of kids are going to be watching Skeleton Crew, hopefully.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And if there's a Star Wars game, a AAA Star Wars game that they can jump into, imagine they won't want to get so frustrated with the stealth, the mandatory sort of stealth aspects of the game.
You're on one today.
So I love the idea.
I think that's 100%.
I'm removing those sort of more frustrating approaches to the game and sort of letting players just have fun with it and go play some Bach, go meet people around the galaxy,
right, yeah,
and gather a team, galvanize a team for some fun heist at the end of the game. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like the game could be easier and it could be more fun for a larger, demographic of ages. Yeah,
I mean, I was not aware of those sort of notes, and I'm not a stealth guy, and I still enjoyed the stealth levels here. There are games I play that I platinum that frustrate me from the beginning to the end, like God of War, because it's so hard. But for me. But this was not one of those, so I was just a little surprised by this, but I think that makes a lot more sense.
No, 100%.
Let's make a Star Wars game more accessible.
Yeah, I also feel like it's a little awkward doing the sort of... I think we three went through it with the difficulty that was there from the beginning, and a lot of the times we had to run out of cover and use Nyx and then punch someone at the same time and sort of disable 3 people at once. That still feels kind of awkward using the control pad for Nyx and then punching someone. It's just a little awkward.
It's a little.
Why not just make it? Instead of using stealth, if you get seen, you can just keep fighting and just blast your way through the base.
Which Ben and I talked a little bit before you're on there, and it makes a little bit of sense. Makes sense in terms of it. I will say, go back to our original first thoughts, and you can hear me rant and rave about how frustrated I was.
Yeah, no, I remember
with that stealth. And here's the thing: is I'm a grumpy old man. And so when they told us that we're changing this, I'm like, boo, no. And then I realized after hearing you talk, Grant, I'm like, you know what? that doesn't take away my experience. Changing it now doesn't take away my experience. No. I went through that and feel like I earned it and enjoyed it and learned something. And now we're making it accessible to everyone else because the first wave of the game are for like general serious gamers, and then open it up for everyone else who doesn't. And I'm like, you know what? The more the merrier. Welcome on. I did my thing. You know what? And when if I ever replay through the game again, I think I'm going to love the fact that I don't need to redo all those stealth missions again, as frustrating as they were. Yeah. I enjoyed learning it and figuring it out, but it's okay that it's gone.
Yeah, and if they ever do a new game plus or something, like it might be. I mean, it is true that they sort of, there's a bell curve. It's like a really steep at like difficulty at the beginning, and then it gets so much easier towards the end because obviously you grind and you upgrade, but there's a lot less of those like, you know, stealth only missions as you progress through.
Yeah.
Or do you want to get into the weird zone? Oh wait,
sure. I was gonna say the name of the pack, if you want to know, is called Wild Card, which I have downloaded and installed, but I still don't know how to access.
Oh, Wild Card! I love that.
Wild Card is the name of that.
Yeah, you might need to restart the game or something.
That's the plan. Yeah, I can't get back to my PSP. Let's see. Do you want to go into?
Yeah, let's go into. Want to go into Weird World? So
let's do it.
We don't usually talk about these. There's two stories that are just rumors, but like I don't know. I just feel like talking about them today. One which I just found out about was there is a lot of talk on the internet about Superman actor Henry Cavill possibly being
Wait, I tried to veto this article. I tried to veto this article before we went
All right,
live.
It is known now. We don't have to talk about it much, but that's just a thing that's happening in the world, and I'm acknowledging it right now.
Is a deep nerd and is welcome in any nerd franchise, as far as I'm concerned.
I love him when he's not playing Superman.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to be a Jedi? I think he'd be a cool one. He'd be a good, like, Elzar Mann, actually.
I like that casting.
Yeah. I don't know what they would have him in there for, but he could. I mean,
I want Henry Cavill to be a Bothan. Rest my case.
You'd be like, congratulations, you're a Bothan. You know, I was just, like, looking over the...
I need slow horses, but Bothans. Can I get that? Can someone make that for me?
I love that.
I love that. I'm here for that. I was looking through the like cast list on the Lucas actual like a real website, lucasfilm.com, and I saw Nick Frost is voicing SM-33, like one of the droids.
Yep.
I love Nick Frost. That's so great that he gets to be in a Star Wars. I think Simon Pegg lore over him.
I can't wait because I haven't heard much like in the trailers. Like there hasn't much teeth.
No, but I saw that
for the droid
because I saw him. I knew that a while ago because I saw him listed in the cast, and I love the Cornetto trilogy and space and all that stuff, and that's right in my wheelhouse. But like, part of me loves.
Favorite one of that trilogy of the right.
Okay, this is gonna be such the movie nerd's answer.
No. There's three choices here, and they're all good, but just I need to hear reasoning afterwards. Go ahead.
All right. Do you want to go, Ben? I feel like mine's gonna be kind of film nerdy.
I mean, that's why we're here. I mean, I don't know. I think if I'm thinking of the trilogy you're thinking of, I was gonna say Hot Fuzz. Is that one of them?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just because I have a.
They're all amazing. And,
I was one, but I'm with you, Ben. I was another one in the three, but I'm now Hot Fuzz after a rewatch.
Okay.
Yeah, I just because I love that.
I think it's the editing, and I think it's the editing. Honestly, the editing
it's making fun of itself and the genre.
Yeah, I think Edgar Wright hit a comedic tone in Hot Fuzz.
All right. I think it's the funniest one.
It's almost like editing
100%
is funny, basically.
Yeah,
like everything about the editing.
So here's my honest answer. This is going to be hilarious. So
I know what it
originally, no, I don't think you do.
I know what this is going to be.
So originally it was Shaun of the Dead because I love zombie movies, and so I was like, this is great.
I
love it.
It's Tavern at the End of the World.
It's one of my things.
So at the end of the world.
So then it was World's End at the World's End.
At the World's End. Sorry, there's a bar in Somerville called Tavern at the End of the World.
Because that movie gets better and better with every watch.
Yeah.
But I felt like I kept watching. I'm like, I like this because it's challenging, but like, is that why I like it, or is it good? So you know what my favorite is?
Same as us. Yeah, it's the best one. Timothy Dalton?
The best one.
Are you kidding me?
It is so good. It is nearly perfect, and it's just like I also love Like the thing I love at World's End is how they change around Nick Frost and Simon Pegg's characters, which is they make Nick Frost kind of a straight man and Simon Pegg kind of the wild card in that thing. So I like how they subvert that and change that. But you know what? That's not how it should be. It should always be the fact that like Nick Frost is the wild card and Simon Pegg is the straight character in these movies for the most part.
And I would argue that Nick Frost is the best in Shaun of the Dead. That's what I argue. He's the best.
And like, I don't want to go in a whole.
I hate arguing best favorites, but like,
no. But here's the thing:
Shaun of the Dead,
they're all
is just perfect.
They're so good. They're all amazing. Literally, my daughter asked me. This has happened. This has actually happened less than 4 hours ago. My daughter asked what sound. She came in from school, and the first question she has is, "Daddy, what sound does a gorilla make?" And so I had to go and think about how Nick Frost tends to be a gorilla in Shaun of the Dead. Did an imitation of Nick Frost doing the gorilla in Shaun of the Dead for my daughter. So that actually happened today. That's not even a joke.
Bill Nighy in Shaun of the Dead is also
so good.
Just
I love. No, you're not listening. It's so heartfelt. Those movies are all heartelt too. There's like heart moments. In them.
And like I don't really like a lot of Edgar Wright films. Like I haven't liked Baby Driver. I didn't like the One Night in Soho. I was not a huge fan of those films.
No.
Huge fan of those three films, like
Same.
Massive fan. And so like those movies are great. I guess they're for just other people, but I'm excited for
I appreciate other.
I am very excited for whatever he decides to do. That's maybe
just like kind of
doing comedy, a fun Guy Ritchie.
Do you know what he's doing next?
I don't know what he's doing.
He's doing a Running Man remake.
Ooh,
starring who's the guy of the time right now? Who's in Twister?
Glenn Powell.
Who's in Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell's so if you just ask me anything about movies today, I'll just say Glenn Powell first to see if that settles what we're talking about. And usually it does. Usually it does. Usually it does. Yeah. Usually I say Glenn Powell, and people are like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's who's in it."
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure Simon Pegg lords over Nick Frost with the fact that he's been in a Star Wars and Nick Frost hasn't. So I think this will hopefully bring them back together a little bit closer.
So what I was gonna say is I love that we're bringing these British actors in, but we're kind of wasting on voices. Like we brought in the Mandalorian Richard Ayoade, who is hilarious.
I picked that droid, by the way, and whenever we drafted like
that's right
or something.
Way back when. Yeah, that droid. So like
I love that we keep
using them for voices. We use David Tennant in Ahsoka. We use Nick Frost now.
Dude, I'm like, honestly, Hu Yang is growing on me as one of the best parts of Ahsoka, honestly, and just all of Star Wars canon. Hu Yang, the idea of Hu Yang.
Mark my words, he's R2-D2 2.0.
Yeah, there's an R2-D2 aspect to Hu Yang.
He's going to be the new R2.
Guys, you're going to cry. I almost bought a Hu Yang black figure. However, I was in Target with my daughter, and we were talking about how she couldn't buy a toy for X, Y, and Z reason.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't buy it in front of her, because how do you explain to a 4-year-old daddy gets a toy? So I literally put it down and went, and it was not there.
I would have chosen that moment to be like, and sometimes we break the rules. And you and daddy are both getting toys.
This is
to be fair, if it was just me and her and it wasn't and Carly wasn't there, I probably would have done that, but I couldn't. Yeah.
It's like this toy's for both of us. All right, and the other piece of useless news, just because I want to get Grant riled up about this, is there was a fan poster made with Tom Hiddleston as Palpatine, and it's gained enough steam where, like, blogs and whatnot are picking it up. How popular
you mean the Hiddleston like fanatics on Tumblr?
Yeah,
and,
probably
the aggregate 80,000 of them.
Yeah,
it's
not the Mensa Club.
I mean, Matt Smith. I mean, Adam and I are in one camp, and one camp only is that Matt Smith.
The Matt Smith camp,
the one and only young Palpatine.
I think that should be
endlessly.
That should be, I think, I just love Matt Smith so much. He's great. And obviously Hiddleston is a genius, and he's fun to watch no matter what, and he would be great.
I mean, is Palpatine, Barry Keogh young Palpatine? Yes, he is. But you can't really do that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna do Killing of a Sacred Deer like Palpatine. You're not gonna do that.
I mean, I honestly think Matt Smith does menacing better than Hiddleston. I'm never scared of Hiddleston. I can't be.
But no, I think Matt Smith does menacing and charming.
Yes.
Right?
That's what Palpatine needs to be.
Yes, if you watch his run as the Doctor,
they're both charming,
he's the most. Yeah, if you watch Doctor Who, if you watch his run as the Doctor, it's one of the best because he's just because because the Doctor's always like weird and out there, and like, can we trust him? Can we not? Like, you just kind of whatever. And he like embodied that of like, I like this guy, but he also might just sacrifice us all. Like we just don't know where his morals are at, which I kind of appreciate. And like Barry Keoghan, I like a lot, but he does menacing much better than I would say charming.
Yeah,
like, I don't find him charming.
Menacing, charming.
Find him
like,
off-putting in a good way.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the answer. So
I don't.
Sorry,
see
internet. You're wrong.
Hiddleston. I think that it's probably his fans just riled up about anything he could do to be on screen and photographed for them. Yeah. Which is tough because I think he should be in a Star Wars at some point.
That'd be great.
I just don't see Palpatine for him. I think. I would love to see him as a New Republic guy, honestly. Like, I would love to see him as sort of like a higher up in the New Republic.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And sort of like, oh yeah, this is what we do. And he's more of like, he's just more of a sort of gentleman, and he's just trying to support the bureaucracy and the decision making in sort of the military or something. Like, I could see that.
That would make those scenes much.
Because I really thought John Cleese deserved to be in a Star Wars for a long time.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I was like, the fact that John Cleese hasn't been in Star Wars at this point is like a crime.
That's such a good call.
He was such a New Republic.
Did you hear him on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend?
Too. What?
No.
Oh, he was on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, John Cleese. It's one of the most wonderful interviews. It was like a couple weeks ago. So good. Speaking of podcasts, as also news, because Grant and I kind of post back, I just want to give everyone an update. Leslie Headland was on Blank Check.
Yes. I listened to all of it. Yeah.
However,
and my favorite movie ever, Mulholland Drive. I mean, this is a movie like I watched this movie and was like, I want to go to film school. I love film. Like,
it's such a great
movie that really turned it on. Yeah. Besides,
it's so. Yeah, and they do a really good job in that episode, which is almost 4 hours long, of breaking down that movie. I just want to make everyone know who wants to watch it is she recorded it before even the release of
Acolyte.
No, so kidding. There's no Acolyte talk because they were recording this season well in advance of any of this. So she kind of makes a couple of hints at talking about fan bases and stuff. But don't expect
That's
to
funny
because
the way that I heard certain remarks that were like subtextually alluding to the idea that she's doing a Star Wars, to me felt like they were post the Acolyte or during the Acolyte essentially.
Yeah, but no, they banked a ton of these episodes as I've been watching.
That's interesting. That's new. That's new information to me. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was before it was even released. Yeah, I think they released. Because she was talking about stuff that she was going to premiere in October if that puts it into. On Broadway. So yeah,
for me, I am hoping for answers about why we don't move forward with Leslie and doing something, another season or a movie. Because I feel like if someone's going to do the Darth Bane trilogy, or we're going to go back and do the Golden Age of the Sith, like we've talked about on this podcast numerous times, Leslie Headland's like top of my list for someone to explore the Sith from their very roots. Like, I think she's got it. She's got it.
Yeah, I think she's a great creator. I think, and again, my limited knowledge of the film industry, I think like a more like polished like showrunner, it's something to just like get the look a little bit right. It was the look that really pulled me out of it, but I love her ideas.
You're going on the negatory right now?
No. Listen, nothing's perfect.
You don't like seeing a long beam or like a vector? Like,
oh yeah, I'd love to see all that. I'm just saying, as far as Leslie goes, I think the Acolyte didn't work out. Whatever, I enjoyed it, didn't work out. But I think like to sort of polish it up and give her a second chance, I think you just pair her. Like I think it's fixable. You just pair her with like a couple, maybe a little more experienced like filmmakers. You give her a feature and throw it out.
I think she doesn't need anyone around her. I think she needs less input. Honestly,
I agree. Let her cook. Just let her cook.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
We'll agree to disagree, but
more money and less input. I'll be wild. Right. I'll speak against the masses of trolls and goblins on the internet, and I'll say more money and less input for her.
Yeah.
Because what I saw was actually a proof of concept that she can do Sith in a big bad way.
What was the input you think she was getting? Just like the studio was up her butt? Like in Acolyte?
No, I don't think this. I mean, I think there's cordial and wonderful relationships between everyone that she was involved.
But you're part of a larger machine.
It's more that there's a finite amount of time essentially that you're you you either have to understand that there's not a lot of time. This is a new era. This is like the prequel trilogy, essentially. You're setting up a new era of the timeline.
Yeah.
And in that finite amount of time, maybe not all the most data savvy, choices were made to please as many people as possible to make the dollars that you need to make these people happy.
Yeah.
But I think in a first season, you're not going to be able to do that. Especially when you're establishing an era. You almost need a film to upstart a new era, or you almost need just a lot of buy-in to allow a season 2 immediately. Greenlight a season 2. Season 2 of Ahsoka. I don't understand how you do a season 2 of Ahsoka.
Which technically hasn't been greenlit.
Which is basically connecting this Mandoverse web that is going to lead to what? The First Order and Snoke. Where does the Mandoverse go at the end of the day?
It's such a tiny time frame of the universe. You can't expand.
Do I care about that? I don't think I really care about the First Order.
Yeah, well, I think that's why
Leslie was doing, because it felt like she was mining deep and dark caverns that hadn't been mined before. That's what I care about.
And she took us just right to the precipice of like the coolest lore almost in the whole saga.
And like everything. We're like, what
to the door.
Do? What did that guy up to? She gets it.
You introduce one of the most exciting new characters in Star Wars, which to me is the Stranger. And the other characters surrounding are really great too. But like the Stranger to me is like, how do you not?
Yeah, just run with
continue that person's story. Like that was like, I'm like,
this was always going to be a dark side tale, right? It's it's going to center on the dark side, and it's like, it's such fertile ground. I mean, I loved it week to week. Week to week.
There's an avant-garde nature to the structure, right? Like, I don't think she knew that Chimere was going to generate this much interest.
No,
I think she thought the twins were going to be the substance of the entire season, and I think everyone fell in love with the Stranger and that idea of a seductor, of the dark side. And I think a seduction in the dark side is something that everyone's very interested in. I think Star Wars is just sitting there twiddling its thumbs and really doesn't understand that that's maybe its most lucrative way forward.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it week to week. I'm looking forward to doing another rewatch in like January, maybe. I just need to give it some time to get away from it. And I'm curious to see, like, watching it as a whole, which is like how I'll ever always like rate anything, and rate in my own mind, meaning for like, do I want to watch it again? Like, you don't understand the experience until you've watched the 8 episodes within a couple of days, at least in my opinion. But we'll see how that.
There's some, I mean, like to say all that, I'm praising Leslie Headland. There are some major issues in the show. I would just say that it's like there's a pacing issue, there's a motivation issue for certain Jedi characters. Like there's such a rush to sort of comment and critique the Jedi in creative culture around Star Wars right now, that I think you almost have to first show a bona fide Jedi, and then you can sort of deconstruct that. And when you don't, Carrie-Anne Moss got a brief glimpse of that, but like you really need to show that Jedi there's something there that is the image that they all look at, right? And they're not just all seedy characters looking to take children and plot behind the Senate's back. Like they're not those characters. They are heroes, and
Rogue
like,
elements like
show a hero, and then you can deconstruct a hero. You can't deconstruct a hero from the offset. You almost need to show what Luke Skywalker was in the original trilogy, or show what Obi-Wan Kenobi was, and then be like, oh, but Obi-Wan Kenobi has some skeletons in the closet. What was the Clone Wars? You almost need to dig into a Jedi after you sort of set them up as a hero. And I think when you just rush to it and you think that's what people want, and that's the sort of savvy intellectual way to address Star Wars, I just harshly disagree.
I think the two things that you said there are kind of connected, is that it should have been automatically greenlit for season 2, because my thought is like all that stuff was going to go away in season 2. Because season 2 is going to be completely focused on the dark side, right? And so I felt like that the showrunners, Leslie Headland and other people, felt like, well, we have to tell a Jedi story. We have to tell it in 4 episodes. We have to make them seem flawed so we understand why we have people falling to the dark side. Yada yada yada. Quick. Like, and I feel like, and I agree with you, Grant, with 100% in that. And I feel like that's part of the issue of just only allowing the show to have one season, because if you had 2 seasons, you would kind of forget about that, right? Because the second season is all about Darkseid. You'd be like, oh yeah, there was that weird thing about the Jedi.
Yeah, the Jedi
at the very beginning of the series that was whatever, right?
The Jedi are so flawed around this character, and this is this character's avenue towards the dark side.
Yeah,
makes sense. It makes the Jedi, it makes the flawed Jedi make sense. So it's almost like that season 2. I would almost think a greenlit season 2 for Acolyte would be more supportive of the brand and the direction of Jedi Sith storytelling than Ahsoka, where it's an automatic green light and we're getting to like the Mortis gods and like the world between worlds. And like, what are we doing here? Like that might break the galaxy. That might break the universe.
I think you're getting at something there, Grant. Because like when you were just like, well, what are we even doing with the Mandalorian? I think the sort of like movement of the Skywalker saga is secondary, tertiary. It's like not the point. Like, you know, the Mandalorian is episodic, fun, day to day, whatever.
We buried Luke and Leia's sabers. What are we doing here?
Yeah, so that's what I mean. All this Mandoverse has nothing to do with that. Like that's the point. But like where they're going, it's like, well, they've got the, you know, the Mando, like the Mandalorian, you know, subtext. But it's like it's really just about like the day to day being a bounty hunter in space on that one. And I think
it's almost like a shadow timeline. It's almost like, oh, let's do this Mandalore and explore Mandalorian history in a finite timeline where we know the First Order resurgence of the First Order.
Because it doesn't matter. It's not a Skywalker saga piece. It's not. That's not a thing. So they don't touch it. And so I think like Ahsoka is probably going to be. It's going to be deep lore. That's their end. It's not going to be tied to the Skywalker saga unless you're actually dealing with Anakin Skywalker post Return of the Jedi, which didn't really happen at all.
You're now throwing me into theory corner. You just thrust me into.
But like that's its thing. It's going into deep lore about the.
Can I drop a theory right now?
Please.
Always. That's always allowed.
Ben, everything you just said has sort of just inspired this idea in my head. You try to, like the C.S. Lewis books, I think of the, I don't know which one, but in one of the books, they're like jumping through puddles, and it's like portals that go through time and space.
Yep.
You jump through a puddle, you're not getting back to the known galaxy in your current timeline right away.
Are you talking about multiverse right now?
Well, that's all I'm saying. There might be a first puddle in the next season of Ahsoka that does not go to the current timeline. That's all I'm saying. And there might be, I think time travel could take place. And Filoni could set up something that is a golden age of the Sith or a far, a distant past or sort of idea or a far-flung future idea. I don't think fans would like it. I think there would be a lot of pushback. But
if they introduce the multiverse into Star Wars, I'm out.
Well, but I think the Purgles to get to Peridia in the first place, you're not going to use the Purgles to get back. It's redundant.
No, they're not. They're not getting back via.
So Purgles, I'm saying they're going to possibly use the World Between Worlds or
World Between Worlds,
magic, and in so doing, they might end up in a timeline that's not, we're not used to as Star Wars fans.
So I don't think, Grant, you're necessarily talking about multiverse. You're talking about like
I'm
far-flung
talking about time
distant past.
Oh, real time.
So
not time.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I think multiversal storytelling.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
I heard James Gunn does a Crisis, but other than that, I'm done with multiversal storytelling.
I see what you're talking about. So you could step into the Sith Wars and like the Sith. Yeah.
And I started to cross my arms when you talked about time travel because my feelings about time travel, but. If you were talking about far-flung future or far-flung past, I'm all there for it because your actions you're not trying to affect current events. And so one of the things I'll say to bring it back to Star Trek is Star Trek Discovery, like third season of it, maybe, the Discovery crew actually time travels like several hundred years into the future.
Whoopsie daisy.
And they're actually in that for the next 3 seasons. And I kind of love that because they're like way past our timelines. They're not affecting things. And it was really a neat way to kind of reinvent that show and talk about like what happened like 100 years after Picard. Like where's the Federation at after that? It was really neat. Yeah. And so we kind of revitalized that show. And I love that idea of like Ahsoka is such a weird wild card in that like if she's going to be around during everything that happened, like, why did everything happen? Right. Like, why is the First Order rise if you have Ahsoka there? Like, that drives me nuts.
Right.
Like,
I mean, if she's time traveling during the
she's stuck in the
Skywalker
past,
saga or something.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it poetic for her to go back to a time where there's like ubiquitous Jedi, and she's like, "Oh, a Jedi! Like
Yeah.
this is what it is like. This is what it's like to be a Jedi." Like she's always said, "I'm not a Jedi. I am no Jedi." And the idea of seeing a bunch of Jedi and being like seeing them as like heroic figures. Honestly, there's a lot of like meta things you could do here, but I wouldn't be a huge fan of sort of living in another timeline for a lot of time and like doing all this commentary that I'm talking about. I would not be a fan of that.
Yeah.
Is it fitting? Yes. It is fitting. It's like a nice dowel that goes into her storyline of like, I am no Jedi. Oh my gosh, look at this Jedi. It's just a heroic figure bringing peace and walking or strutting around and sort of like doing what they can to be a diplomat and help people. And it's like,
what if
why did I ever say I'm no Jedi? Like Jedi are great. Like it's perfect for her. Yeah.
What if she saves the Jedi Order of the way past?
I mean,
like that's the thing is like the Sith are winning and the Jedi are on their back heels and they're losing who they are because they're fighting a war. And Ahsoka comes back through the timeline and teaches them how to become a Jedi again, right?
Or
like,
she
shows
writes
them
that
the true path.
That's in the beginning of the Alan T. Foster
and,
sort of
exactly. Like that's the thing. Like you just
Force
do that
book.
time
it's
travel
sort of
thing.
Like she is the gray in between, or something like. She invents that idea essentially. Like there's something to that that's really beautiful. But like, I don't know how fans will react to it. That's why I feel like everyone's just dishing on Lucasfilm. Like, dude, guys, they are dealing with a pretty incredible story of incredible scale and scope.
Yep.
And everyone's just judging them. And I'm like, the judgments need to go away because you don't understand. The next step that they take is very important.
Yes.
And it's so upsetting to hear commentary on Star Wars when it's like,
the last thing we should be listening to.
These steps are incredible and important steps.
Yeah. Last thing you should ever be listening to are fans.
Yes.
Because the
us
the voices that are elevated are not the majority of fans, right? On either side or whatever. So it's just like that's part of me is like what made the Acolyte cancellation so difficult was the dumbasses online.
Yeah, it felt like the dumbasses
spewing hate around it.
Yeah, but I don't even pay attention to it. I pretend it doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist.
If you look at the numbers, they made the financially correct decision to cancel that show. That show did not perform well. But it feels like you're giving into hate to cancel it. And if we just stopped listening and stopped engaging, we can make these decisions the way they should be.
Right.
And so
it had someone to sort of keep
do what's good for the brand. I mean, like what's good for the brand doesn't mean dollar signs.
Well,
it means what's good for the brand means longevity.
Yeah. Grant and I were talking about this the other day. No one's ever said a bad word about Andor. But Andor also didn't do great as far as viewership. I mean, it's almost as in the same vein as Acolyte. The only thing that saved it is that it actually picked up viewers over the course of the show. But it didn't,
got so much critical acclaim.
Right.
And,
I guess because like, people didn't really know what it was. They were like, yeah, I guess I liked Rogue One, but like there wasn't a big attractor to it. They didn't realize they were going to get the best storytelling that's ever happened. But I mean, it's kind of a flawless show. Like there's no one nitpicking on that show because it's amazing. So I mean, there's some of that. Like that's almost the bar that like Skeleton Crew has to clear. It just has to be great.
No. I don't hold it to that bar.
I don't think it's be that high.
It's a different thing.
It is, but I mean, like that's kind of like Skeleton Crew.
Well, the problem is Lucasfilm pushed forward Andor and put it into the world, and it's spectacular. It's a revelation in terms of what you can do with Star Wars, and it's definitely going to impress upon us who are constantly watching Star Wars and constantly looking at what we like and what we think is not of interest to us, but maybe of interest to others. But Andor is definitely going to shade our sort of our lens on Star Wars, and so for a long time.
So I had forgot about one piece of news, but it's very pertinent here.
I bet you're going to talk about
it. It's rumored, even though still technically Ahsoka Season 2 has not been greenlit or announced formally, there's a rumor that they are going to begin filming in April of 2025.
Yeah.
Sort of like right when Rogue One finishes up, they're going to start going into that, which would probably, like people are guessing then that it would come out summer, fall 26, which would be like right around the time of that Filoni movie. So there could be some synergy there. There might not be. That's
perfect. Honestly, that's genius. That's absolute genius in terms of slating, because what happens there is you have a movie that's happening in the known galaxy, and then you have a show that's happening in Peridia, right?
Yeah.
Where it's on Peridia, where it's Shinhati and Ahsoka and Sabine and the Mortis, sort of structures we saw there, and the witches, whatever sort of Dathomiri magic is still there to explore, and a possible world between worlds, possible. We might go into the Mortis gods in live action, which would take an entire season, and I imagine, and I don't know what's left there to tell.
Right.
Could not care less.
Yeah,
I
just don't think. I think it could all be just missed and ruined. I don't think we need to see any like deities appear. Honestly,
just allude to it.
But you could have a situation where in June, July, August of 2026, Ahsoka goes through this journey on Peridia, comes back, and then 4 to 6 months later, she immediately intersects with the Mandalorian to take out Thrawn in the movie that you could have
a finale even of the Ahsoka season 2 that ties into the end of the Mando and Grogu film.
Yeah, I bet you it does. That's a good point. They're all going to be tied in together,
and that's great because when does that ever happen? That's history making. That's Variety and Hollywood Report.
It's a little Marvel universe for me.
Lose their marbles over that. They would write like 3 articles for 3 weeks about how it's never been done before. A season finale like ties into a film in such an intricate way. Like this is brilliant. Like I don't know if that's what they're hunting. That's like the proverbial white buffalo of what they're trying to do. But it's like. It would definitely make the trades, and it would make the trades for multiple weeks.
Yeah, and at least it's. I hear you with the Marvelification, but at least it like focuses in. It's not like it makes sense that Mando and Ahsoka cross paths. It's not like you're just gonna have random characters showing up in a million movies. Like I was watching Black Panther with my students today in class, and it was just like. All of them had seen it before, but I'm like, oh, if you haven't seen any Marvel movies, you're fine. And I'm like, no, you're not. There's like a million references in this thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh yeah, they're referencing Bucky Barnes, if you're curious. Right. Here. Like I was literally just like doing asides for them. Like that's what that joke is. Just from this movie. Yeah.
Right.
But the crucial stuff you don't really need to know. Black Panther's a great starter movie of its own.
I agree. It's
story.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's pretty much for news and rumors. I'm glad we actually went through that now because it was kind of a big, busy week when you really think about it.
Oh, I love talking about this stuff with you guys. This is
perfect. I'm here for it.
It always leads us to interesting corners.
Yeah, it's just nice when there's a week full of Star Wars chatter.
It's so fun to not see any of the sort of trolling and negative conjecture, and then dish on that populace. Like I love it. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I don't even see that stuff. It doesn't even enter my timeline.
No,
let's go on a mission to the Anawat sector, guys.
Yeah,
let's go.
Oh, dude, the Anawat sector. Yo, so do I have to send this to you? Actually, I have. I had to. As soon as I saw Anawat sector, I'm like, oh man, what is the Anawat sector? And
I've got it
Grant,
all,
I know
I
you
didn't
know. You know. I'm just gonna drop in a couple screenshots I took here, just in case. I got the maps. So this is Anawat sector is Hoth and Bespin. Are both in the sector. It is galactic south in the unknown regions. Here we go. Now I'm sending them to you.
I love this, Ben. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, because I went through my books first, and I'm like, it's not here, and I'm like, where's the thing? And I had to Google it, and there's all these interactive maps. One I found was written in Russian, like in Cyrillic, and I was like, oh my god, like. But yeah, all to be like, oh yeah, Anawat section is near Hoth, so. And Bespin. So,
Galactic South. Yeah.
Galactic South. And actually, what's the part of the. Now that I'm looking at it. Oh, yeah. So it is technically.
Outer Rim.
It's Outer Rim. It's just past the Mid Rim. So the Senex Juvex sectors is also and Greater Javin, whatever Javin is.
They're trade routes. And yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't say it on one, but the other one is like, this is the Anawat. So that's where we are. But
nonetheless, let's set this up though. We are.
What are we talking about?
We were reviewing the comics.
Yeah.
The Battle of Jakku: Insurgency Rising by Alex Segura. It is about the Trinity. It is about I guess more so Luke and Leia in these comics, sort of dealing with the Imperial remnant after the Battle of Endor, and
Yeah.
there's a holdout sort of general Adelhard in the Anawat sector, and it's really fun to learn about this character, because I was like, is this Gallius Rex? When I first comics, I was like, is this Gallius Rex from the Aftermath novels? Is this the sort of last sort of imperial sort of admiral that's in charge of the remnant, and is this who Luke and Leia are going to fight after the final battle? And it's sort of like, yes, this is where we're starting. We're starting with this new character. It's not Gallius Rex. It's Adelhard. It's is he a Moff essentially? If he's
Grand
Moff, as it were.
So he's a
maybe
Moff
the title
of the
he ended up
Anawat
giving
sector
himself.
essentially.
Yeah.
The Tarkin Doctrine, all the galaxy was divided into sectors, and they were given to Moffs. So we have a new Moff here.
Yeah, and I want to say a couple things. So the comic series starts literally right after the end of Return of the Jedi. Like, it's literally the fire's still burning. Like, the fire's just still there.
Yeah, it's after the wedding.
The Darth
still
Vader
celebrating.
funeral pyre.
And
aflame.
And before, just to give you a side note of, like, I think this is really smart for them to do the story, is like, before the podcast, I was rereading issue 4, and I was sitting next to Carly, who's doing work, and she's like, did you finish what you need to read? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what were you reading? And I told her. She's like, oh, I think I want to read that.
It's pretty cool.
Like that. Yeah. Like, think about that. Like, my wife, who's not, like, does not deal with anything not TV or movie related with Star Wars. Like, when I sold her on, like, it starts like literally right after you have Leia looking at like Vader's skull, and she's like, or Vader's helmet. I'm like, she's like, I think I want to read that. And I'm like, yeah, I think you might. Like, it's really,
honestly, I love the Leia.
It's really fun.
Like, the Leia stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
Luke and Leia are great in these issues.
I was a little like arm crossy again when I was reading this. I'm like, why do I care about Adelhard? Like why do I care about this random person they're doing? But they did I would say they did a pretty good job in this first part of the series demonstrating why he's a threat. Like, I love the fact that he brought together the like some rogues, the spice pirates of Kajimi.
Do we like that though? I'm gonna drop a hot take right now. I'm just not a fan of like leather jacketed smugglers and like Kajimi spice runners. Like, it's just not my vibe. Like, Rise of Skywalker, what's going on here?
Bodysuits and T-visors.
I'm just good. I'm just super good on like that. That's just not Star Wars to me.
So,
it feels like it's outside the McQuarrie sort of like vein.
I agree. Let me reiterate. Let me rephrase. Is that I like that they're bringing in gangsters.
All right.
Do the gangsters I like? Not so much. But my point is that he demonstrates that he's a threat by, one, lying to everyone underneath him by telling them that the Empire is still strong, that Vader and everyone else is still alive. I love that. Brings in gangsters and brings in the Acolyte of the Beyond, and I'm like, this makes sense why the New Republic feels like this is a
not
threat.
just any gangsters though. This is the Bliss.
Out.
This is like Zeva
Spice
Bliss,
Runners of
and then you have
Kijimi.
Zara Bliss, and like
Zori's mom.
You're getting all of Zori's sort of backstory here, and the Kess Dameron's there. So like the juxtaposition of Poe Dameron and Zori Bliss is just
they're doing a lot.
You're unable to sort of separate the idea of like, well, there's sort of like this mirroring of Poe and Zori with Kess and Zeva, and which is obviously
it's a lot of feeder material for that
Fortuna than anyone else, but like it's a little bit like buying into the sequel trilogy aesthetic and early, which is weird to me because I really thought you'd live in the 70s. Again, we talked about Alien Romulus before we went live tonight, and like living in like that 70s aesthetic and feel of like kind of bizarre 70s science fiction where like nothing really has to make sense. Nothing, like almost like the idea of cataloging and curating your galaxy in such a in-depth way as the story group has been known to do, kind of doesn't make sense in this. The 70s is just like a 70s cinema is just do whatever you want. Like, it can be weird. Like, people can meet each other who have no connection, and you can have a weirdo next to a weirdo, and it's fine.
Yeah, it does kind of set up that weird novel that we read, and it was like it was such a strange outlier. It was like a prequel for Poe Dameron and Zori Bliss at the same time.
Poe Dameron Freefall?
Yeah, it has a weird name to it that doesn't really relate to any of them, but I think it was Freefall, and it's like laying a lot of groundwork for that, which is like, all right.
Fine.
I need to know
that was a
this.
book.
Yeah.
And it's fine. But can we talk about some of the sweet pulls that are in these issues? Like, we have Jarek Yeager from Star Wars Resistance, like pop out of nowhere in these comics, and like the idea of Alex Segura being like, you know what, we need to make Yeager a bigger.
He is a great character in Resistance.
Give some past to him and all this sort of. I loved that.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah, what a great pull. I'll agree. Grant, to kind of respond to what you were saying earlier, I agree with everything you're saying, but we are clearly in the era of backfilling. We're in the sequel trilogy backfill era, which means we got to like. It
is wild.
We got to do the same
repair
thing
work that's happening right now, and I've listened to the past 51 podcasts. I swear to God, I'm constantly talking about how. I agree with you, Adam. Era of backfill and reinforcement and bulwarking of the ideas that were shared in the sequel trilogy, sort of making them indelible. And it should be indelible from the start. You shouldn't have to do this work, but it's tough to see it. Instead of being like you'd love to see it, it's tough to see it.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice if they hit it on the head. There is some joyful synergy though, for those of us that read the Aftermath
we love
series.
Joyful synergy.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Aftermath series, like they did talk about, when we're following Admiral Ray Sloan, who is also in this, and she's a key figure in the Aftermath series. Yeah. There were things where it's like there are just like rogue elements that are just of the Empire that are just like on one, like people that are saying, and this is a thing, it's like saying that they didn't lose the election. I mean, that they didn't lose the war. Yeah. And like, I think that's amazing. In the Aftermath series. Like, she was talking about like trying to wrangle the flotsam and jetsam.
Why do people think a contingency plan is so unfathomable? I'm like,
do people think
this guy walks around shrouded in dark robes and has like mystical acolytes of the beyond around him all the time? Like, you don't think he has messages prepared for when he dies? Like it's just crazy to me that like they're like. So it's wild that he thought of this.
Let me respond to that, because I think I'm one of those people. Like, I did not love the contingency plan stuff because I felt like that Palpatine was such an egoist and believed so high in his own supply that he never thought he could die. However, he's right. He couldn't die. So weirdly, Episode 9 now makes me like the contingency plan, because contingency plan is really like, no, I'm gonna wreak havoc. I'm gonna have everyone wreak havoc on the galaxy while I'm getting ready to come back. Right?
Did you read those Tom Veg like Dark Empire comics back in the 90s? Because like for me that completely infiltrated my mind, and I was even the way Mara Jade sort of thinks about Palpatine in the Heir to the Empire trilogy. It's like he kind of infects people, and like there's something about him that's long lasting that those comics, that trilogy to me showed me that Palpatine's one of those big bads you can keep around for a while. So when they said Palpatine was always in the cards for the sequel trilogy, I was like, I mean, like, to me that's sort of what's elemental about Palpatine, is he's the big dark entity that's
Can I do a brief primer for our listeners that don't know what's happened in specifically with Palpatine, right? So if you don't know, there was a contingency plan that Palpatine set in place after his death. It's multi-pronged, as you would imagine, but most of it revolves around Operation Cinder, which is essentially a scorched earth thing. Part of that was, and we know this from books, video games, like
World War II history,
very diaspora, right? And he sent out these really disturbing droids that did a 3D holo image in their helmets of his face, giving messages, like traveling as a corporeal entity to people, and then like waiting till they get in front of the person they need to talk to, and then delivering a message. And there's a bunch of them.
Honestly, that's like one of the most fascinating ideas I've heard in the last
it's really cool.
years.
It's amazing. It's one of my favorite things.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Because those things
it's
also
like
just
Order
hang around.
66 sort of like mirroring.
Yeah. So it kicks off.
Is it in?
What's that?
No, I was gonna say, is it in the Aftermath books where they talk about those things just hanging around?
Yeah, they like
and everyone's being like,
and check
why are they?
It was the Alphabet Squadron.
Why are they here? Oh, Alphabet Squadron. Okay, thank
specifically,
you.
there was one in Alphabet Squadron that was just skulking around, and they're like, "Who is this thing going to talk to?" Like they didn't know.
Why is this? Is it ever going to speak?
What's it going to do?
Introduced
I love that.
in Shattered Empire,
right?
To
because
the
it didn't,
comic that took place.
Because it needed to deliver certain messages at certain moments, which is just like terrifying.
I love that. I think it's one of those brilliant ideas.
I love it. It's so good. I need to see it
alone
on
is
live
brilliant.
action.
Yeah, and I don't even know when that was manufactured. I think it was in Aftermath, but I don't know if it was in the video game or if it was.
I think it's in the Shattered
books.
Empire comic, and then maybe in the last Aftermath book around. I don't know who got there first.
Yeah, it was definitely in the Aftermath books. So ultimately, the idea is destroy as many worlds as possible, and then group all of both armies together in the same location, and then destroy a planet so that it sucks in all
the
of
gravity well.
Gravity wells, like all of the New Republic and all of the dying Empire.
But and definitely read that Empire's and the last Aftermath book, because it definitely connects to these comics in a huge way.
And it's fascinating. It's really cool. So you see you see sort of the Empire side, and then he squirrels away sort of the best of the best into Exegol for the Final Order, which we find out in the movies, but we don't really know what he's doing in the books yet. They just know they're going to the unknown regions. So that's the basics of like sort of what's going on through this time. And obviously, Jakku is the place that he wanted to destroy and clear, like draw everyone to and clear the boards. But but then you have like Masameda is the figurehead for the Remnant Empire, and he's the one dealing with the Senate. But he's being manipulated by a person named Gallius Rax, who we were excited by, that was introduced.
Ooh, I think we do see him in these first 4 issues here. I do think we see.
Do you think there's a Rax sighting?
I think
there's
we get
Sloan
Rax.
Is he the one in Shadows?
With the red cape? I think it's Gallius
Rax.
Rax.
That makes sense.
That has to be.
I love that.
And I mean, he's one-upping Krennic at this point. It's like the all-white attire, like
with
ISB
the red
attire.
cape. Yeah,
the red cape.
The swag, buddy. The swag. Yeah. And then, I mean, you have the whole. So it was weird. So Yuktashu is in this, and and like Yuktashu is a pretty known like person of. It's called like the Emperor's Circle or the Emperor. I forget the exact name of it, but it's like he has an inner circle. Masameda's obviously been there forever. Slime War's been there forever. You have Grigitas and. Something Alu is in there.
Sim Alu or something.
Sim Alu, like those guys are there, and there's some really good. I think they're in. There's
great
some really
hats.
Great hats, like black Pope hats. They're like evil popes that follow the Emperor around. And there's a really good story about that in the From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi novel. One of those 40 short stories. But it's fantastic. So these guys
are
have
the
always
Beyond, right? They are the acolytes.
Yeah, but the acolytes of the Beyond are really the Exegol folks, right? Those are the.
But Yuktashu is seems like their head.
Well, so that's what's introduced here, and hasn't really been defined. Because I was like, we know a lot about Yuktashu. No, we don't. If you go to Wikipedia, there's nothing on him except for this now.
Oh, he's in the Aftermath books, isn't he?
I thought he was, but there's nothing.
There's got to be a couple chapters on it. I think there is.
Listen, in the 15 hard minutes that I researched Yuktashu, like
Yuktashu.
I couldn't find anything about his other things. I'm like, I know we've seen this dude, but anyways, in this comic book series, he's one of those guys in the funny hats.
Dark side.
Yeah, he's
like,
this sort of.
When he said power of the dark side, any villain who says power of the dark side, that works every single time. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
that works every time.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's what he's in this, and he has another acolyte of the acolyte of the Beyond. They're tampering, and I didn't get the
Arena Oscur.
Yes.
I want to talk about her. She's a very interesting character. She's treated as a kind of phantom inquisitor at some point in the 4-issue stretch. And when it's revealed to be her, I really thought it was going to be someone else, because I think you see her on the bridge at the beginning of the 3rd issue, and you're like, it's not her. It's someone else. And then it's her. Yeah. And then okay, it's interesting. She wields the Inquisitor's blade.
Yeah.
She kind of like doesn't
she's a
force
wannabe,
the blade back to herself at a certain point, and then Luke calls her an imposter, and it's like, does she not wield the Force? Like, she's not an Inquisitor proper at this point, which made me be
I
like,
don't think she wields the Force. I think she's a
an
wannabe.
Inquisitor at this point, because I feel like there could be
is.
like rogue Inquisitors at this stage, right? Like, couldn't there be a few rogue Inquisitors?
Could be, it could be, or they just could be like Sly Moore that are so weak in the power of the Force that it's like it's kind of inconsequential. Especially
But on the
when you're
Jedi
standing
journey,
next to-
Luke, isn't it important for Luke to sort of talk to a fallen Jedi?
Yeah, that's why he just calls her a wannabe and is like, no. I feel like he
Yeah,
gets
I
the
felt like that was
size
like-
of her,
yeah.
and he's just like, you're nothing, and
It was like short shrift for like what I thought could be maybe like, oh, you were a Jedi once, but like I'm the Jedi now.
they've
Look at me.
avoided.
I'm the Jedi
all
now.
that. Yeah, I'm the Jedi.
I'm the Jedi
yeah,
now.
they've avoided all that. So I think
Yeah, they
she's
just like
one of these weak wannabes.
he's kind of just a,
Yeah, that's kind of what I got to, and it's interesting that bit of a rug pull was interesting when she was revealed. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Adam and I think I think we connected on before we went live.
We did.
One episode where we were like, oh, did you read episode issue 4? Oh yeah. It was like, that was the reveal. Okay, but I don't want to honestly. I was gripping my issues when I was reading them. I was like, oh, this is so cool. We're going to the Anawan sector. Oh, what could happen? What could happen? Like I was really loving these issues, and I do love these issues, and I do love Luke and how he's written. I do love Leia and how she's written, and I love the transition work. And I think Alex Segura is incredibly talented. Obviously, I think he wrote the Poe Dameron novel that we read.
I believe he
did he?
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Gosh, golly.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? So the third member of this cadre, in addition to Adelhard and Aksuni, is General Bragg, and I'm on Wikipedia right now, and they have him listed as a purge trooper. And that is interesting. So we were introduced to purge troopers in the video game Jedi Fallen Order. And then they're like the special troopers that follow around Inquisitors specifically, to
He was Imperial Bane to me.
Yeah, I thought he was a Magna trooper. Like one of those like
kind of like mud jumper. Honestly, it's a brand new armor we've never seen before.
What are the droids called in Mandalorian that are they Magna troopers or something?
Magna Guards?
Are they Magna Guards?
No, they're not Magna Guards. I'm saying
No.
in Mandalorian.
In Mandalorian, they're droids, but like that droid, they were like, I've upgraded them and taken the person out of the suit. So like that's what I thought. I thought this was a previous incarnation.
Dark
Oh,
troopers.
Dark Troopers.
Are they Dark Troopers? Yeah. All right, we'll call them Dark Troopers.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I
thought
they are
that's
Dark
what it
Troopers. They're phase. Those are phase 3 Dark Troopers.
Right. So I thought I thought
2.
Bragg was a phase 1 Dark Trooper. Like when the humans were still in the suits, which we got in the Force Unleashed video.
Oh, that's a take. That's a theory, bro.
Oh, well,
That's a
it's
theory.
not. According to
You just dropped a
Wikipedia,
theory.
he's a purge trooper. According to Wikipedia, what do they know though?
Oh, they don't know anything.
We don't. They don't.
Can't
It's
even
all
load the web page to input like dark.
Trust me, I know.
No, I think you're onto something.
Wikipedia
because I would say the
strays.
armor looks closer to phase 2 or phase 1 Dark Trooper armor, and that's untread territory. What Lucasfilm tries to do is they try to like, oh, someone made this phase 3 armor in Mandalorian's, season 2. What if there's phase 2 and phase 1 that's yet to be sort of identified?
Right.
And therefore, this could either be phase 1 or phase 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense in the timeline.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I think it's a better idea than Purge Trooper because we know what Purge Troopers look like, and there's been 2 iterations of Purge Troopers in both Jedi Fallen Order and in Obi-Wan. There's 2 different versions. We know what they look like. And they don't look like that. He looks closer to a Dark Trooper.
He does. I would say. I want to go back to Oscuro for a second, just to build us on.
Reyna Oscuro. I like the name Reyna. It's a great name for a witch.
Yeah.
I like it.
But so Reyna, I was doing
like
a bit of
Reyna. It's a
yeah.
Weird. All right, keep going.
I was doing a bit of Wikipediaing, and she's a Anzadi, and she mentions she's long lived. Her species live 1,000 years from Legends. So this character is very interesting because
she's not the same species as Orla Jareni, is she?
No, she's
they're both
the only
albinos.
in New
What about
canon,
Barish Sylvan?
she's only
she's the same species as Barish.
No. So this is the first time we've seen her in new canon, or seen this species,
Okay.
I should say, in new canon. Yeah.
All right.
So,
Cool.
but a
1,000
lot
years.
along.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
doesn't she
yeah.
does not have the Force? I mean, like we see the
I think it's
lightsaber sort of
TBD.
like scatter away. which
Yeah,
is-
I think it's unclear.
I'm getting.
maybe-
I will
I
say,
think
as
she's a wannabe, but there might be
Okay.
light force tendencies there. It's like Slime
Yeah.
War. She can like kind of turn the heat on 2 degrees warmer in your house by manipulating your thermostat from 10 feet away.
Perrin is just completely under the spell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's very a minor thing.
Slime Moore is coming here.
I know,
Oh,
so frustrated still that we didn't get that.
I know.
That's my
We're all
only.
watching-
That's my
I think
only
we're all really
critique.
watching Andor week to week to see Slime Moore.
Slime Moore.
Is
The
this
story we
Slime
got
Moore?
was
Yeah.
incredible. We loved it.
I know, but can you
us
imagine
nerds We're like, are they going to do the dinner party? Is Perrin's dinner party this episode?
we were so hooked. Where's my dinner party?
It was like Mephisto. It was like our, yeah. It was. Yeah, we were searching.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe we didn't get that.
I did appreciate the Luke Adelhard confrontation because you get a couple of great Luke lines,
John
like
Hamm line?
using the John Hamm line exactly from Batman. I don't even think about you.
I don't
It's,
think
like,
about
just
you
well
at
delivered.
all.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah, I love that line.
Yeah.
It's such a great line. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of these issues because Adelhard like lands, obviously, loses to Luke and sort of falls into a 10-foot pit where he basically is just
Yeah, and then-
fine, and I'm
Yeah,
just
he's
like,
just fine.
okay,
Somehow
and then
somehow Adelhard.
yeah,
has
somehow he's
Sorry.
fine, and then you know what? It wasn't an abyss, I guess, below them. It was just like you
Yeah,
dropped like
yeah.
8 feet onto the ground and maybe just like fell over before Luke got out of the ship, but he gets up and he's like, I'm gonna have to embrace the darkness. And then he does kick Luke in the stomach. So there's a moment where Adelhard, a moth, who's I guess to assume is not force sensitive, like kicks Luke in the stomach, and is like, you don't understand, like the Empire lives. Da, da, da. Like I don't know what he's saying at that moment, but he's like, the imagery of like just a non-force sensitive kicking Luke in the stomach and sort of getting the upper hand to me was just like, what does this mean? Does he how is he able to best Luke Skywalker? It's kind of like crazy to me. And then at the end of the issue, he's like, I'm going to embrace the darkness. And I'm like, can he use the dark side? Is he force sensitive? Is there something to him that he's like, can rival Luke?
Can I tell you my take on that
Yeah,
scene? So
give me your
first of all, like the only reason he got the upper hand on Luke was because like their ship was getting bombarded,
Yes, the
bombarded,
ship
and he
got
lost his footing.
lost,
yeah.
Luke lost his footing, and Adelhard did at that moment.
But Adelhard didn't? Like this to me, I'm like a Jedi
Well,
loses their footing and Adelhard
something
And also-
reasons, but like, and it didn't last
Well, no,
very
no,
long.
something
softened.
reasons to
He also
me is,
got
like,
softened up by like 30 stormtroopers. He had to like take down like 15 stormtroopers.
Yeah, and it doesn't last
Fine at
long.
that
So it got
point,
softened
though,
up a little bit.
He's kind of
Yeah.
confronting him at that point.
Yeah, but he gets a couple kicks to the ribs, and Luke gets up and cuts the gangway, and
Yeah.
and is like fine and jets out of there. Like it's not like he was like curled up in a ball or Mike Tysoning for 8 rounds or anything, but he like
Where is our
he was-
culture these days?
I
Oh
know.
my
I'm so
God.
sorry about that.
I
reference.
think
I'm
our
so sorry.
country is literally becoming a WWE script. It's
let's-
out of
that-
control.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen who's running Department of Ed? It
No,
literally
that's
is.
my comment
Sorry.
of the week.
Moving
That's
on.
my comment of the month.
Yeah,
almost.
this is not
Are
a
we
political
living in like
podcast.
a WWE script right
Nope.
now?
Yeah, let's hope it's not. Anywho, I mean, and then I make a stupid
I
comment
mean,
like
it
that.
is, but it's all right.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
said it the other day in the control room. Everyone was like, "It kind of is."
no, that's all we were
Yeah.
thinking when we watched.
I was
that
like, "That's
whole
actually what's
debacle.
happening right now."
Yeah. Anyways, moving right along back into Star Wars. I also think that when he says he wants to embrace the dark, it just like what's her name, Mixune or whatever, was like, I want to, you should use me. I need to do blah blah blah. And I think he's like, okay, I'm gonna leverage the power of the acolytes of the beyond, and I think that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Occam's razor.
yeah. Same.
They're
Yep.
just right there, and he's gonna try to
Yeah.
leverage some of those darksiders.
I mean, he's not. His Star Destroyer is going to get sucked into the desert of Jakku. Like I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to.
Yeah, that's
Nothing's gonna
that's
happen.
the, yes,
Nothing-
that's
I mean, if
the-
he even
He's gonna
gets
go
there,
walk on sky.
I kind of like that it's separate from Jakku because he,
I do,
they
too.
established he is one of these weirdo outliers, and they have to deal with it. And I love that Luke was on the scene for it.
It was like the Batman leaving Joker alive, though. I was just like, "What are we
Yeah, I know.
doing right now?"
Like Like, someone like jostled Obi-Wan Kenobi's friend at a bar and he cut his arm off. And I'm like,
Right?
you know what I mean? And like
That's
looked
why
at
you
him
guys
kind of
like
sideways.
Obi-Wan so much. I knew it.
Yeah, and he's like, no, it's fine, and like didn't spill a drop of his drink, and then played it off like with sexy casualness, like whatever. This is just another day for me, But it's like, so why don't you just take his hand off or his foot, or like, have you read any of the Jedi texts? I have. A lot of our listeners have. Like, you can take a hand if you got to take a hand. Like,
I think just binders and leave them on the ship while it goes down, or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but just like binders, definitely binders, and definitely like take them in. Something.
It's odd. I will say this: he did in this timeline within 12 to 24 hours before this, just had someone trying to push him into the dark side to the point where he almost like killed his father. So he might be a little hesitant to take a life at this point because he's feeling kind of raw.
I'm not saying take a life. I'm saying
You're
put him in binders and you lug Yoda around Dagobah.
I agree with that.
Lug the guy out of the ship.
Yes, 100%. That he at least like takes down the threat by putting him in binders,
and drags him off the ship.
I don't know,
by the scruff of his neck.
I guess the other thing is, in the story, he had to take care of it as quickly as possible and get back to the ship. Like, I think
he did. There was a ticking clock at that moment.
I think
so. There was another moment in that whole like escape of our like cadre of heroes, the like 4 Kiss Dameron and that whole squad, where they had both the Inquisitor and the Purge Trooper in binders, and they're like, take them with us, and then they just like didn't. Like, I don't think they actually got away with them, right? Like,
I thought
did they actually capture those two?
Yeah, they were in binders.
They definitely took 2
I
away.
assume
Yeah,
they
they
you
definitely
see
took
them,
people
like,
away.
Okay, they did.
Yeah, because it
get
took
them
all
off
their
the
energy
ship.
to lug them away. I think there's a line where they say it took
we
all their
didn't.
energy.
They do, but you don't
remember
see
seeing
them
I
on the
assume.
page. Like, I don't remember seeing them. Like,
there's a couple of weird skips in this thing. The way that Luke sliced both of those sides of the walkway, and the fact that he fell.
I didn't see the far side get sliced. It was at the pull of the saber.
I thought only one
and the
side
saber
got
throw.
It's both sides get sliced. If you look at it, both sides have the welding thing. But I think what he did is Luke turned on the lightsaber, pulled it to him
through the thing behind
through
it.
one, grabbed it, and then
That's
sliced
exactly
the other
how
one.
I thought too.
But
But
they
they
don't
show that visually.
But they don't show it at all. That's an amazing visual.
Incredible.
Like, I don't know, and they don't show him falling. So you had to like kind of put it all together. It was odd. So there was a couple like skips, and I wonder if it's just you have a page limit in a comic. Right. So part of it might have been like we just have to skip past this and assume readers will follow
you definitely
it.
feel the page limit.
It's very odd.
But I think it does do the fun stuff with the Gallius Rex Shredder stuff, where it's like you don't see his face. And it's fun.
Yeah,
those will be fun reveals to see. I mean, for the people, the diehards. I mean, how long ago did Aftermath come out?
Wait, we read that book like
a million years,
almost
like 10 years
almost
ago,
a decade a year. It came out in 2015,
like 11 years ago. We read that book.
Have we been doing this podcast for 10 years? Are we getting up? I thought it was 2017 we started. Is that wrong? Is it 2015?
No, but like the book came out. I read the book before we started the podcast. I started reading.
Yeah, the book
books.
started. The book started. The Aftermath books, I believe, started before even Force Awakens.
Okay, so the books came out 2015, 2016, 2017. So maybe we covered
we
the
started
last
the pod
book together.
The last year. Yeah. So we started the Potter.
It was
Solo
post.
Was
it was post
thing.
Last Jedi. Solo was the first movie. It's post Last Jedi because I remember when I came in. That's all Grant wanted to talk about. Was like, what do you think about Last?
That was
what do you think about Last
2017,
Jedi?
right?
Yeah.
So 2018. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oof. So I think it was post this. The first book I think we covered was the book around Solo. What was the
Last Shot.
the Lando?
Last Shot,
which is amazing.
Book we ever covered.
Daniel Jose Alder.
Good.
Right?
What a great first book.
So good.
Yeah. I loved everything about that book. I love how he wrote Han and Lando. I think Daniel Jose Alder really has a grasp on that stuff. And if Donald Glover needs any help with Lando, I mean, Daniel Jose Alder's right there.
Oh,
right
good
there.
point. Totally, bring him on. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
I love that duo too. I love the idea of them. Doing that. It's great.
That would be a dream team.
Yeah, that'd be like wow. Anything more to say? I mean, like I'm trying to think. Like we're getting to the Battle of Jakku. I imagine. I think the next issues are called the Battle of Jakku, just straight up, right?
No, sorry, because the first one came out this week. What's it called? on Under Siege.
Republic Under Siege.
Next
God.
4 issue.
This is my least favorite part of all this era. Is just like the New Republic taking L's. It's just like the poor New Republic like can't do like. They're like so virtuous. They're trying to do it right, but like the way the narrative's gone with all of these media around the New Republic is just like they are way over there.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, how fragmented is the galaxy? They're like, and like in these 4 issues are like deeply fragmented.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And I'm not saying
you've
it's
got
wrong.
crime syndicates, you've got remnant Imperials, you've got like people don't know what to believe in. Like, it just feels like they're inheriting a mess, an absolute mess.
Yeah, and it's totally
which is pretty realistic,
super realistic, but just super depressing at the same time. Yeah, they're doing their best, and it's just like to try and be virtuous in this galaxy.
When you're a kid and you watch the sequel, when you watch the trilogy, the original trilogy, you're like, great, they won. And then your mind's like, yep. And they took back the galaxy, formed a perfect government, and everyone lived happy.
That's why I thought it was such a bad idea for
Luke
not to take Adelhard. I was like, the one thing the Empire had, that was their main sort of MO was like loyalty and chain of command. If you take out the top, of that hierarchy, you're basically like everyone else is just like running around with their head cut off. You know what I mean? Like if you take Adelhard away,
snake sort of thing,
really, it was like what a bad tactical error for Luke. I was like, definitely take this guy out of the picture because then those people are lost in the Anawan sector.
Yeah, he's the one guy telling
the Empire
everyone.
Works. It's just fear and control, and if you take out those figureheads, you're basically going to rob entire networks of their of control. Yeah.
I agree. I'm okay with it in the structure of the story. Like I think they did an okay job of kind of explaining. Well, not explaining, but putting situation together why explains why he didn't take him.
Yeah,
he just couldn't have. I think he couldn't have gotten to the ship. Yeah, it was timing, but like it could have been a little more there. But like I agree, it feels a little like, well, clear. Like I feel like you're writing this. You're like, well, Luke can't be bested by this guy because that wouldn't make any sense. So we have to write it in a situation where he gets away from Luke, and it just felt very writerly at times with the idea of just like we have to keep the bad guy alive because there's 2 more parts of this trilogy to come.
Exactly.
But I think we're gonna get more Han. I wonder because like Han's like I'm gonna go off and do my mission. Like that's what we get at the very beginning of this. So I'm like I hope we're gonna get a Han.
Do we know who's writing the next 4 issues?
Segura's doing the whole 12 issues.
I really love his handling of all this stuff. I really think it's fun.
And
it's super fun.
Releasing
I love reading it. And these were actually like, I read
Yeah.
a lot of Star Wars comics and like there's not a lot of weight to them. And these ones felt a little bit
Yes.
Yeah.
more
They felt heavier. Yeah. They felt weightier. They felt like they were moving. I mean, again, to tell a story, to give someone, like, it just kind of blows my mind of just like, yeah, we're giving you what happened like an hour after Return of the Jedi.
Huge.
It's like a big thing.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? And I appreciate it. And I feel like you know, the other thing too to mention is like these are releasing every 2 weeks, not monthly.
Yeah.
Like that's a wild schedule for him to be writing on. That's like he's basically writing 1 year of Star Wars comics in 6 months. Like,
I mean,
he's
but
writing,
he
like,
probably had this stuff set up and knew, like he knew what he was getting into and had plenty
Oh,
of time.
I'm sure he's been working on it for a while.
Actually, I
but,
wanted
like,
to talk to you all about like going back to like the first panel of this 4-issue arc. You know, with Leia with Vader's helmet. It just like when I was looking at it, I was like, well, Vader's helmet is not Anakin. You know, Anakin isn't there anymore because his corporeal form is one with the Force. But I'm like, that helmet, I was just like, I don't know if you want to touch that. Like, you know, if there is such thing as like dark side transference or like, you know, like that helmet is probably all dark side. It's just the remnants of all of that bad energy that was Vader all the time, and when she's holding it, she's like, all I feel is hatred and fear, and I'm like, that makes sense, right? Like if that helmet, the vestigial elements of that helmet. Is
Wait, so you're saying don't
Vader.
touch it? You're saying there's almost a bad element to touching it?
Yeah, like not a full
I
like
love your
curse.
thought process, Ben. I absolutely love your thought process. Guess what? That's just not in Star Wars.
Yes.
Well,
finding like these deeper vested visions that they have and sort of like familial past. Like, it's just not there. I thought it was going to be in the sequel trilogy to some degree, and it just never occurred. So I think she picks up a helmet, says she feels a few things, and then throws the helmet behind her. It's
I'm
like,
saying it could be there.
What Star Wars has become. They don't have that.
Well,
it's very cynical, Grant.
No,
and
I'm
it's
not.
like, I can have this interpretation of it.
Argued against in the past that I just want to like reiterate that I've been arguing this point for a very, very, very long time.
I'm sorry to pick that sore spot. I know, but I'm saying like it could be interpreted that way based on like the writing on the page is like she touches the helmet, all she feels is fear and anger, and then drops it and walks away, and so much so that Luke is like, "Yo, you good?"
Yeah. Like, so why didn't so my thought, a couple things is, one, she's not at this point, she's found out she's Luke's sister 6 hours ago. Right, she's found out she's Vader's daughter 6 hours ago.
This is also what happens to me every single time I get into my like trenches, or I just like, guess what, this just happened 10 minutes ago, so they don't even have the Force yet. They're not even Force sensitive. They're not even thinking that way yet, and I'm like, I wish there was just a way that Force sensitives were kind of always Force sensitive.
Yeah,
I agree, but she just hasn't just like illustrated that at all. And the other thing is, I kind of love that she picks up the helmet because Leia has had no interactions with Vader like Luke did, right? And the last time in the entire series, the two times she ever saw Vader, she was in the same room as Vader, and clock me on this if this is right. The first time, he stood by while her planet was destroyed. The second time, she stood by while her love was taken away and tortured.
Actually, there was a first time where she was tortured by Vader herself.
Right, thank you, and also tortured by Vader. Right, so this is almost a taking back of power of like, look at this skull, like look at this thing, like what is this? It's almost like a power move of just being able to pull this thing up that tormented her and just throw it over her shoulder. So I kind of love that.
I agree.
Like, you're
I like that moment too because it's just like the stuff that she had to go through and with him especially.
I don't blame her for not
forget about this.
Oh, I totally don't.
I don't care. Like this is about what he did to she knew him as an oppressor of the galaxy.
Yeah,
and
the worst.
The worst. And Luke didn't have that political advantage.
Yeah,
he was.
You're right.
The farm boy.
Yeah,
right.
It's different.
The only time he ever interacted with him was personal and one-on-one and talking about personal things, not watching horrible acts
in hindsight too. It's just sort of like, oh, Luke, did you really find his good side? Because I met him 3 times. The first time he tortured me, the second time he destroyed everyone I loved, and the third time he took away my husband. And put him in carbonite.
Every single time was just traumatic and awful.
He Negan'd her hard. Again, watching way too much Walking Dead. I'm so sorry.
Wait, I can't believe we gotta talk about this after we wrap. But like, I really want to catch up with you on that because, like, do I need to watch?
You don't.
Do I need to watch the Daryl Dixon show? Do I need to go in?
Daryl Dixon is very good. Daryl Dixon is on another
I watched the first couple episodes and I was like, I'm into this. So we're in France.
No.
Like
No, Daryl Dixon's show is like on another stratosphere of all the rest of Walking Dead.
It's wild to me. Walking Dead was appointment television for me the entire time. I loved it. I love zombie stuff. And there's 2 series currently going on with The Walking Dead.
At
least
3
series going on. I have not watched. I will watch eventually, but I'm like, I know I will watch, but I feel no pressure to watch them, and I'm like,
they're awful, and I love them, and it's my happy place right now, and I don't know.
Great.
Both
that
things
sounds
are
exactly
true.
what I'm looking for.
God. You're ready for 28 years later.
I watched 15 seasons of Supernatural. I completely understand that feeling.
Safe space.
Yeah.
All right. There was another part we got for those of us that played like 1,000 hours of Star Wars Battlefront 2. They made reference to Luke's sojourn to Pilio for almost no reason except to just make that lore drop, which is there's a very short, there's like a 10-hour single player aspect of Battlefront 2.
Can I just say that Battlefront 2 is actually a deeply special video game experience, and if you played the single player story, Pilio
it's a great
is unforgettable.
Story.
The story is actually
really good. First class.
Really.
I will agree. As someone who does not care about like the I played it a couple times with Ben because it's fun, but like that was it. Like the multiplayer aspect of it. It is worth it just for the single player.
Like when that happens, even the Lando mission on Sullust, you're like, wait, is this actually happening? Am I doing this? And it's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so in the game, it's just like to let you learn the mechanic of like operating a Jedi, but you're on this beautiful planet called Pelio, and it's
a coral planet. It's like a coral reef planet. It's like it's kind of a bone. I guess it's like a oceanic, but also like arid, sort of rocky planet.
Yeah.
But with coral, sort of like everywhere, and even in like the surface areas, it's all coral plant vegetation and things like that. And
it's beautiful.
That's actually a really genius sort of like biome that we haven't seen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gorgeous, cool. And it's really fun to play. And the whole thing is like he feels this call to this area, and it's one of Emperor Palpatine's caches. I think they call it like Palpatine's lighthouse or Palpatine's not storeroom. It has a very romantic name to it, and I'm sorry I don't know it. But and it's in this comic too. But he goes and he's
like a reliquary or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, it's like a stash of relics. And so what happens in this level in Battlefront, and they make reference to it, is so you get to play as Luke, which is cool, but most of the time you're playing as these special forces that I can't
Inferno Squad, yeah.
Inferno Squad, thank you. And and Inferno Squad is sent at the same time to destroy this cache of knowledge, and Luke beats him to it just barely. He fights his way through, but he just, the only relic he grabs is it's like a Jedi compass, they call it. It doesn't really have a very fancy name. But
so as diehards, like going back to that mission, does he just sort of walk off screen and sort of like exit frame and like fights these acolyte of beyond in the comic here? Like, is it kind of like the next stage?
It ends with him sort of like leaving, and I think he spares Del Mico's life. So Del Mico, I think, is the sniper, and they have a little conversation, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go now. Bye." And there was something, he's like, why would I let you take that? I'm here to destroy this. And Luke just takes the one relic and is like happy with it and escapes, and that's sort of it. But then this comic has a scene that happens after that, like when he's just getting back to his ship, and and he gets accosted by a group of the Acolyte of Beyond that gets summarily a can of space.
So is that woman who's with the dagger? She's not Reyna Askur, right? She's a different character.
That's just a rando acolyte.
And she's like, we believe in Palpatine and Vader, and like we are the acolytes of beyond. We're the darkness and the shadow of them, and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, they're dead.
Yeah, he's like, I thought they were dead.
Luke is like really is like a 70s, like I don't know, sort of like soft drink commercial, like in these comics. He's kind of just like,
he's still a lovable farm
kind of
boy.
just like he's kind of just like happy to have survived the encounter with the Emperor and his father, and he's like, happy, you know what? Here. Life's not that hard, and all you people who are just trying to use violence against the New Republic, like just calm down. Like
just calm down.
Take it easy.
Yeah. Have a day off.
Yeah.
And
lightsaber dangling at all times. Like Luke is a warrior. And I think that's so fascinating because like he throws away the saber in the throne room in those scenes in Return of the Jedi. Saber dangling in all these issues just like tells me that Luke is like that warrior. And I don't know if they're doing that with the fandom, and the fandom wants that sort of warrior Luke archetype, or that like, he is supposed to be a warrior for a little bit. He's supposed to be a Jedi, right? For good 10 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, at least.
He's Return of the Jedi. It's Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
He is to be a Jedi for a while now.
Yeah. I think that, that scene was just there to plant these early seeds of Exegol and something larger happening. That it may not be dead. Or there's all these other layers past Palpatine with his machinations in the galaxy, et cetera, et cetera. It was
totally.
So cool.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I can't wait to read these next issues. I was gonna buy the other issue tonight, but at my local, I was playing Star Wars Unlimited tonight, and it was out. They were all out, and so that's a good sign. If anything, that's a great sign. I'm just happy. I'm like, I guess awesome. I got to order ahead again. I got to dig into cycles of ordering my single issues. But it was all out, which is good. A really good sign that it's gone on the.
Yeah. It was after reading this, it was one where I'm definitely going to get the trade paperback.
Yeah.
copy of this. Like
they're like important. They're almost like you put those.
Yeah.
Shattered Empire. You like nest them around your original trilogy. So like you watch the original trilogy, you dig into these comics, and it adds a lot of really fun, I think, lore that's sort of, and the writers do a great job of sort of like capturing character voice. And I just think Alex Segura is, he seems like Charles Soule and Alex Segura both can just nail this. Jodie Hauser too. I remember those Age of the the Empire.
Who is doing the Rise of Skywalker
she does a lot of the
comic adaptation.
Really, really good. But I really
good.
want to shout out her work doing this sort of Age of Rebellion comics.
Those were so great.
I really like those issues, a lot. And I feel like she captured character voice as well as Soule and Segura do.
Yeah, and Jodie Hauser's a powerhouse who's never gotten a run on a regular series, but she does all these like limited series that are so good.
I think Jodie Hauser could do the next Afra run. That'd be great. I would
totally.
I love that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, right on. This was a great night, guys. Awesome. Love talking Star Wars with you and listeners. So great to have you along for the ride and listening as well. Not sure exactly what we're going to cover next week, but I have a lot of ideas in the hopper myself, and I'm sure these two do as well. So
we'll talk, which is 1 week. That'll be our last episode before Skeleton Crew, which is wild.
Well, our cup floweth over.
And a happy Thanksgiving to all fans who are listening.
Yeah, all those who celebrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening. We'll see you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.